Oh my word, what's that? There's something at the door. I wonder what that could be. Obviously I know exactly what this is because I put it outside about 2 seconds before I went out there. A totally sealed, legitimate container. Okay, so behind me here is the bike, specializing in the very latest developments in subframe technology. And in front of me here, I've got what should be the last pieces to get the bike running. We're gonna do a little unboxing now. First, we have keys because the bike did not come with any of those. Unfortunately, I've now got 2 keys, one for the ignition and one for the tank and the seat, but we should be able to cut kind of a hybrid with one of these keys on one side and the other key on the other side. This is the key component here, the injectors. The reason that the bike wouldn't start is because the injectors were completely clogged. The fuel line had degraded and all those particles went into the injectors. You could see them on the intake ports, and I took the injectors to be cleaned and tested, and the guy was like, these are not salvageable. Found someone on Facebook Marketplace and I got in contact with him. He sent me these. The injector guy at Cape Fuel Injection was nice enough to basically clean these new ones for free after the other ones did not come back positive. So yeah, I now have 3 tested, verified working injectors, and that should be the reason that the bike starts. The main reason at least. The second main reason is this. This is a very special valve that is very, very difficult to come by. They don't make them anymore, it's an obsolete part, and they tend to just become brittle and break. This one, thankfully, is in good condition. And what this does is it's got a stepper motor inside here that actuates up and down and allows air to pass through the valves, through these 3 ports here, directly into the injection ports of the engine. It basically bypasses the throttle bodies and allows the bike to control the idle itself. So it controls the air with this valve and then the fuel with the injectors. And with those 2, it can control how fast it idles. And that allows it to do like a faster idle on startup or adjust for temperature and things like that. That also means that it can make the bike richer when it starts. That I think was also one of the reasons it didn't want to fire. Besides the poor spray pattern with the fuel, the mixture was also probably too lean because I just left them completely open. Between these 2 things here, should all work. Then I've got the matching fuel cap here because I destroyed my one. Obviously, I didn't get the key with this and it was stuck to the bike, so I had to kind of pry it off there. Then I've got the ignition. This is not the right connector here because the switch was broken on the ignition. But that should be fine because I'm rebuilding the harness anyways. And then the reason why I wanted to get this proper ignition switch for this bike and not some other random cheap ignition switch, which you can very easily come by, is because this one allows you to use a steering lock. And I know that I kind of deleted the steering lock on my Supermoto because it was rusted shut, and it's kind of a problem. I have to bring a chain with me everywhere so the bike doesn't get stolen. And in South Africa, you know that's a problem. Next is the seat lock, which just completes the set. Very nice. Then this is just a bracket for the airbox, and this is a bracket for the seat lock. That is pretty much it. You'll see that the bike is actually starting to look quite mean, or at least I think so. And then what I did was I remade this subframe bracket. Obviously I haven't completed it yet, which is why it's let's say adjustable. You can go down to like a cruiser style. So this is going to be welded together so that it will stay in the correct position. So the first thing I want to do now is actually just take off these 2 attachment points here and check out how the switch is actually designed. I've got the switch off here, and it's quite cool how it works. That just moves, basically reorientates that pin, and you can see that the lock comes out there. Technically, in order to hotwire the bike, all you have to do is take off this and stick a screwdriver in there and just... Pretty easy to steal. But you still have to battle with the steering lock. That is just kind of how it goes with these old bikes, I guess. You could also just unbolt this and then you wouldn't have to worry about the steering lock anyways. I guess bikes without transponders, not very hard to steal, and there's nothing to stop people from just kind of picking it up and putting it in a bucky. It's getting quite late and I have to study for an exam tomorrow, so I just wanted to show all my cool new stuff today, and then I will come back to rebuilding it on the weekend. So excuse my laundry, it's raining outside, so it's kind of going to be undercover here. I'm going to put these things on now just so the bike can feel like a real bike again. Yeah, so I got a combination of bolts here. I'm going to hope they work. What did I do with the keys? As soon as I get keys, I misplace them. So I see the lock actually locks onto this piece of plastic in here. So it's a real good thing I didn't break this off when I was getting the other lock. Awesome. So I have a working fuel cap. That is really exciting. It's actually really exciting. Alright, better not lose the keys now. Yeah, I've got this cool bracket. Not that it's going to fit on the bike. Awesome. Okay. Well, I guess I see why the original ignition was lost then. They obviously unbolted it to put that thing on. And then they changed the tails. Obviously they lost that key. Ignition on and off. It's not a great lock because it gets stuck all the time, but I'll take it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And then my plan for the front of the bike is something like this. Something like that. I think that's pretty damn cool. And obviously I'll need some kind of thing to cover the wheel. I think let's put on this idle air control valve and the injectors now. Can start by getting this bad boy off. Just held on by literally one bolt. I'll definitely have to make a better system for that. Let me take off my seat. This cable, pull. Seat comes off. I think I'm probably just going to clean the tank. I don't want to risk anything getting in my injectors again. This then comes out just like so. Yeah, so I'm going to have to take the throttle bodies off to actually get to that stuff under there. So let me just start with the spark plugs, nice and easy. If you strip a spark plug thread, you're going to know a world of pain. Which I've never experienced, but I've been told is pretty bad. I will neaten up this harness and replace nice connectors and stuff way at the end, once I know this thing is not a complete waste of my time. Although I've pretty much decided that I'm just going to fix it no matter what's wrong with it. Just for the sake of learning, you know? It's so difficult to get these frickin' things off. I'm breaking a sweat. Oh! Whew. Let me fix my subframe. Look, the intake ports aren't the cleanest thing in the world, but it could be a hell of a lot worse. I don't know what's actually in the cylinder that's got past the valves, which is why I chucked oil in the cylinders last time. Some of that oil should still be there in the cylinder, and it should catch any particles that go through. I don't think I'm going to take apart the whole head just to clean the intake port. It seems a bit excessive. This was already around at the end of the last video, but I just got some new hoses because this is the suspected culprit. These hoses degraded, and that caused shit to go into the system. Alright, so I'm going to move on to giving this a little clean. This is that very expensive valve. A very expensive valve. I actually want to take this valve and have my friend scan it and 3D print it, so I've got spares in case this one breaks. Or I could sell my other throttle bodies with one of these. Because I can't find any online files for 3D printing this thing, which I think is quite ridiculous. That is definitely something that ought to be available on the internet. Okay, so I reckon that should be more than sufficient. It's so annoying how easily these things go on compared to how difficultly they come off. Now, my one also came with these very interesting things, which I think should elevate a little bit so it sits better underneath there. Because obviously if there's a big gap and it's not sealing, it's not doing much. Okay, now we just got to test that it actually sits right on this thing. This is the thing, it sits nicely, but I don't know if that's gonna let air. Yeah, that's gonna let air past. I need to actually raise this further up. Alright, what I'm gonna do until I can get it something proper is I'm just gonna take slightly oversized nut. Let me show you. So you see, this is the problem here. Because it's got that region at the bottom with no threads, I can't just put a normal nut on to space it upwards. So I've just got this slightly bigger nut that can fit over there. Doesn't vibrate around too much, and then I'll just bolt this down on top, and that should solve my problem. That makes much better contact. Well, that fits, so I'll put this whole thing aside for now. What I must now do is, I've got this silicone hose, which I put inside somewhere. Alright, and then I also have this fuel hose here, which I'm going to use as a breather hose from the crankcase to the airbox. Well, this is a much better angle. I'm sorry I didn't use this sooner. But we can just... Okay, easy. So now I just repeat that 3 times. And done. Just like that. All you have to do is snap your fingers. I almost made a critical mistake though. If you look there, there are 4 things that come out, and this one on the left here is actually blocked off at the bottom. These 3 ones let air through. So this 4th one over here, I connected a pipe to, and it would have been both causing one cylinder not to fire and get no air, and also causing unfiltered air to come into the system. So that would not have been good. Alright, now we've got spark sorted, we've got air sorted, then all we need is the fuel. So I'm gonna go get some fuel so I can clean the tank and the lines, and then we should be good. Okay, you can see I've got some fuel here, fresh from the gas station, and I'm just gonna use this to clean out my fuel lines and then my fuel tank. Okay, there we go, easy. Alright, just pop these injectors in now. I like these O-rings he's put on, yeah. They're very nice. I like the color. That's exactly what you're meant to like in an O-ring, just the color. There's nothing else much to it. Alrighty. That fits way more snug than it did before. Okay, now let's just evict these 2 hoses off to the side. Okay, that looks pretty good. Just tighten these up. Okay, I'm gonna clean the fuel tank off camera because it's already a mission in itself. I don't want to have to bother with recordings. Okay, so I've got a lot of the wires laid out here, and I'm now gonna try connect a little bit of something just to the ignition. We're not building the full harness just yet, just so that I can actually start it with the button and the kill switch and not mess up the stepper motor by disconnecting and reconnecting the battery the whole time. And this over here is what I have to aid me. It is basically a little diagram that I've edited to be more or less what I'm working with here. Yeah, I basically just have to make this. So easy stuff. Yeah, easy. So this here is effectively all the harness I have to work with. And you may be thinking at first glance, that looks like a lot of harness. What is that guy complaining about? So many wires. But I would like to invite you to look further, because it's just loose wires that don't really connect anywhere. And I've done my best to label what they should be, more or less. That was a painstaking process in itself, and it's not really conclusive. This may be the ignition switch, or what it's supposed to be. I don't actually know. We will find out. Okay, I have left the harness on the table. I've just hooked up a little intermediate system. So basically I've got, this is my power over here. There's a fuse that goes to all the important stuff in the ECU, and that obviously goes to the relay. And when this connects, it goes to the starter motor in there. Then this positive for the starter motor comes up here to the switch, which just gets power from this. So when I switch the kill switch, it'll provide power to the starter, and then I can start the bike. If the starter motor spins, we have success. This battery is connected here. If I switch this on here, it should provide current to the bike, and the stepper motor should move, and the pump will prime. Obviously there's no fuel tank, so the pump's not going to prime. So we're going to try that now, just to see if that works. Okay. It all works as it should, but the big problem is just that the battery is very flat. We will see if I try jump the bike, if that helps, but obviously I have to sort out the fuel first, otherwise nothing's happening anyways. Okay, the fuel tank is now clean, and I'm going to go to the petrol station to fill it up. How's the boss?
Okay, good man.
Can you fill up my bike for me, please?
Huh? How does it go?
With the engine. Yeah.
How do you start?
I haven't figured that out yet. I just got it.
Oh,
It's new.
say petrol, eh?
Yeah, petrol. Doesn't work with diesel. Okay, so now all I need to do is connect the fuel lines, and I'll be able to start it with some help from my GS, hopefully. Close line is receiving. very excited because I think it's going to work this time. When I set up these things, it looks so incredibly sketchy, and it really is. Let me see if it primes. It does not. Okay, it would appear that there's a problem somewhere. The kill switch off, I touched the starter and it started starting, and it did not stop when I let go of the starter. Maybe the solenoid there's something wrong with it. It also just almost started spontaneously, so... Alright, I just went and picked up a new starter relay because that is the problem I've been having. I fixed this one. I got it off an old bike and it wasn't working, and I just took it apart and fixed it. Obviously I didn't fix it well enough because as soon as it's on its side here, without gravity helping it retract, it just does not pull back, so it ended up just keeping the starter on. Luckily the fuel pump also wasn't priming because this fuse went, just because I accidentally touched something while I was setting it up here. So I just put a new fuse in there, change out the relay, and we should be good to go. So let's see if it primes. That is the sound of a fuel system priming. Let me just check. Nothing is leaking. That also looks dry in there. Who knows? Maybe she'll fucking start up. That's crazy. I have got my lovely girlfriend here to hold the fire extinguisher for me in case things go sideways. Come say hi.
Hello.
My heart rate is going. Okay. That is definitely not enough juice. So I'm going to start up my bike and jump it. Okay, my camera just decided now was a perfect time to run out of space. So I had to download some footage. But I got everything set up here. I got my bike ready to jump start it. So it's the moment of truth. I am actually very excited. Not good. Maybe we need some easy start.
Mission unsuccessful.
Not ideal.
Nothing exploded.
Yes, that is true. Nothing exploded. Since she didn't start right up, I'm going to just add even more flammable things to the mix in the hope of not blowing myself up. So, easy start. Hopefully it should work. Just take a bite right now. Thank you. Okay, stop.
Where do you even spray that?
Into the airbox. What the hell? I do not understand. How's it?
How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks, and yourself?
Sorry, I just wanted to ask. I'm James. Nice to meet you.
Sorry.
I wanted to ask you. I've heard you a couple times going past. You sound
I
like
see.
you know what you're doing when it comes to motorbikes.
I mean, I thought I did, but I can't get this one running, so...
Well, and I can't get mine running, and I have actually no idea.
Suzuki and that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you, by any chance, have 5 minutes to have a look at it sometime?
Sure.
Whenever that might be. I don't actually know what's wrong with it.
What are the
I'm
symptoms?
very new to this, and...
And so, at a loss on how to solve my own problems, I ended up fixing someone else's bike in order to restore my mechanicking confidence. So, basically, I gave up the other day because it was not firing. And I checked the spark plugs and I was getting no spark at the spark plugs. So after much trouble, I decided to go off camera and try to figure it out because everything takes like 4 times as long in camera. And it turns out I just took out a CKP, the crankshaft position sensor, and I cleaned it and I put it back and nothing's work. That was not the first thing I tried. I tried like 100 other things. But anyways, I'm glad it's working. So hopefully this time she runs. If not, back to the drawing board. Definitely less confident than I was the first time, but I don't know of another reason she shouldn't run, so using my poor GS as the mule here. Go. I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack.
What did you forget?
Forgot to connect the injectors.
Oh my soul.
Never fucking plugged them in. Oh wait, so of course it's not gonna start.
Going in 10 minutes.
No word. Okay. Go for it. Fuck yeah! Fuck! Yes! Yes! It works! Doesn't work anymore! Woo! Fuck yes! Yes! Sounds mean.
It does.
I know! Woo! Before we smoke ourselves out, it definitely needs an exhaust pipe. I can't imagine riding this thing.
You get so many noise complaints.
It sounds like there's 10 quad bikes lined up.
But definitely when you start it, the thing that goes blah, 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 blah. That's like, could be misfiring. Do you think it'll start under its own battery power?
Probably.
I'm gonna assume that it's killing itself because it's got the coolant sensor is not in. So the bike thinks it's running really hot when in reality it's cold starting. So it's making it a lot leaner than it should be. But the fact that it starts up like that, I'm gonna say first try, although it really wasn't first try. But now that everything's working, the fact that it starts up first try means the compression's probably good. So now the next thing to check is the gearbox. If that's good, woo! Crazy stuff.